I've driven cars from startup companies, new companies, and from Legacy Auto, and I think one of the biggest drawbacks Legacy Auto is going to continuously run into is the importance of software in electric vehicles. Because so many of those legacy automakers are reliant on dated supply chains where they have to buy different controllers and different components from different companies, and one company is in control of one aspect of the software, and another company is in control of a different aspect of the software. A lot of the time you get a very scattered, kind of cluttered experience, and it doesn't feel like there's actually much graphic design going on, or at least any modern day or futuristic looking graphic design, and it's something that I think will drastically affect why people buy one particular brand over another. And yes, I have some examples. So I'm in love with the Rivian R3, of course. Very retro-esque design, very outdoorsy and adventurous, but at the same time it's a bit of a throwback. And I think a lot of people looked at the R3 and just immediately thought, oh, well, that's just Rivian's take on a Ioniq 5 or any other electric crossover. But having been in the Ioniq 5 and being in a Rivian, I can tell you that there is a night and day difference, not just from Rivian having a more modern, more clean, minimalistic approach towards interiors, but also because Rivian, like Tesla, also has state-of-the-art software and infotainment where you can tell that they're in more control of the vehicle. They know exactly what's going on in terms of your direction, your weight, your powertrain temperature. There's so much control and data they give you that makes it feel a lot more like a modern day smartphone or tablet that just happens to be on wheels and you can drive it around. Whereas that legacy automaker feel is honestly very hard to shake. Even just little details I think start to stack up. Like when I checked out the Ford F-150 Lightning, having all of these traditional beeps and sensor sounds whenever you open the tailgate or open the frunk just start to pull you back into the old-fashioned way of car manufacturing. Suddenly makes you feel like you're not really in the future, you're in just an older car that just so happens to be electric now. And this is a huge limitation Fords have had for years, and I'm shocked that they haven't gotten around to adding this, but all Mustang Mach-E customers and Lightning customers still are not able to see on their own vehicles how fast they are charging. They have to either check the DC fast charging station to see what the kilowatt rating is, or if they take it to a supercharger, they have no idea. They literally just plug it in and you get your state of charge, and you hope that it goes up fast, but they don't know how fast their vehicle is charging, which is a very basic, in my opinion, very simple aspect of software that should be added to the display, and yet is still not a thing on the latest version of Ford software. Oftentimes with these legacy automakers as well, you see these kind of traditional toggles left on, or dealerships trying to keep them on, I guess to keep people comfortable with the idea of switching to electric, whether it be propulsion sound, so it sounds like there's an engine somewhere. I don't know if that helps you in some way drive the vehicle, or they turn off one pedal driving so that the vehicle has this natural creep to it. It was a huge deal breaker for a lot of people with Volkswagen ID4s. I've heard the software has gotten better, but at least the first time I checked out an ID4, it still creeped, just like a gas vehicle. It was not one pedal driving, and it had to make all of these, engine sounds to make you feel like you're still driving a car. And that might help serve to a certain demographic of people. I'm not trying to deny that there is a market of potential EV customers that isn't quite sure if they want to make the switch, and a lot of these legacy automakers, because they're continuing to sell gas vehicles, they want to make sure that if you try out an EV, it doesn't feel all that different, right? It still feels somewhat familiar, and maybe that gets more people on board with electric vehicles faster. Like, okay, but once people have made that, mental shift and can wrap their brain around, okay, you know what? Electric vehicles are the future. These are more fun. These are more enjoyable. I want to own one now. All of that stuff starts to get dated and stupid and feel really, really clunky very quickly. And I think once people make that transition over, the importance of well-optimized software that looks simple and is easy to navigate and very minimalistic and kind of emulates the simple and clean software we're used to engaging with on our phones and tablets, those vehicles are going to stand out and feel vastly more futuristic, and I think be a lot more tempting to the everyday person than those legacy automakers are that are trying to hold on to the past or have shared software between their different vehicle platforms. I think that's honestly part of the reason there's so much sluggishness with legacy automaker software, is because they're trying to have one infotainment package that can power their electric vehicles and their gas vehicles, and at the end of the day, EVs and gas vehicles, they just have way too many differences that you can't really just share software between the two. And that's why when Rivian unveiled the R2 and R3, I think it was far more tempting and far more eye-catching to people than what we see with legacy automakers today. Like, a lot of people are super pumped and put down the reservations and excited for the Rivian R2, even though on paper, what are the major differences between a Rivian R2 and something like a Kia the EV9. I mean, the EV9 is smaller than an R1S. It's got more seats and it's more affordable than an R1S. But at the end of the day, it's also just not a Rivian. And I think a lot of the brand power that comes associated with Rivian is also accompanied by the software that Rivian has. And people know that the mobile app for their Rivian is going to be a lot more capable and a lot more functional than the mobile app they get for their Kia. There's something simplistic and minimal and visually less busy about the R2 interior that gravitates more people to wanting it because they know, well, that's a Rivian. It's a startup company. It's a new brand, so they're trying to find their own identity. They've got a bigger emphasis on software than Kia will with their EV9, even though I think the EV9 is a great overall vehicle. You know, decent charging curve, a lot more affordable than an R1S or a Model X, and it's got a decent amount of storage space, but something about it just screams yesterday's tech, and I think it's because they share so many parts and components with their gas vehicle counterparts, and there's not a huge emphasis on the software like there is on the Rivian that makes it feel clean and fresh. And that's another reason that the Tesla Cybertruck is still like my favorite pickup truck on the market right now, even though it may not be necessarily the most efficient with those big tires, and I know there's some build quality issues people have reported on, but at the end of the day, having checked out a Rivian R1T in person and a Tesla Cybertruck and an F-150 Lightning, there's interior differences between all these brands, and I think Tesla usually shows up short with the build quality, but what Tesla never falls short on is the infotainment and the operating system simplicity. And what's really impressed me about the Cybertruck compared to any other is just how custom and well organized the mobile app is, and how well designed that main center display is, where you have these custom icons, custom font, custom charging indicator, and you can have the navigation up in the corner while you have all of these controls to choose from on the Cybertruck itself. There's so much attention to detail into software choices with the Cybertruck, and I think that software really replicates the drastically iconic and eye-catching exterior, and that stands out, I think, a lot more than any other truck you'll find on the market. So much time and attention getting put into the software, and yet still not enough, because Cybertruck should definitely have autopilot. It should have full self-driving, especially when they're charging 6 figures for it, but I'm sure over time those things will eventually come. But once again, that Tesla software experience is one of the things absolutely keeping me from checking out or buying in the future other legacy automaker vehicles. Like, I would have a hard time switching over to an Ioniq 6, even though I love the exterior and I love how efficient it is. I've watched lots of reviews on it, and the second someone gets inside it and starts navigating the user interface, that's when I start going, no, that just looks so clunky. The route planning is so bad, the UI looks so dated, and software is something that you have to interact with a lot, especially with electric vehicles, unlike build quality, right? Because sure, some dashboard might creak a little bit more than another vehicle, but are you reaching up and touching and applying pressure to the center console and the dashboard every single day? No, a lot of the time we just get in and start going, and you don't think about, you know, the exact material and the way it was stitched. That's what you pick up on the first time you get in a car. But for day-to-day driving, the software experience, that stands out a lot more than just the material choices of the interior or exterior. And it's something that I don't see a lot of companies picking up on. Like, they try to fall back on CarPlay and Android Auto to let Google and Apple do all of the heavy lifting, but there's just some kind of disconnect, I feel like, especially when you have to start getting into route planning or battery preconditioning or navigating the car controls alongside the CarPlay and Android Auto experience. It's just a little bit disconnected when you have one company in charge of the software and another company in charge of the hardware. Then at the same time, you know, you can't always assume that there will be a phone that is able to do CarPlay or Android Auto at all times. So in those circumstances, you do have to kind of fall back on some kind of built-in car software. It's better for that car software to just kind of do everything if it's designed properly and it has good infotainment and it has good navigation. And lastly, that's just another huge advantage I want to bring up for Aptera. They have a huge emphasis on software as well, showcasing how much energy you're able to generate from the solar charging. And I think it is a huge advantage Aptera has over a lot of legacy automakers. The fact that they're putting time and attention right now, before even production has started, into their mobile app, which a lot of legacy automakers put next to no attention to their mobile app, and their infotainment, because they don't have a huge display in there, so they have to be kind of crucial with what information they do show and don't show. And so far, I've been very impressed with everything I've seen, and I can't wait to check it out more in person in the coming months. Just another great advantage of having a startup look at first principles and figure out what really needs to be prioritized when it comes to software development. I wish I could say the same for Lucid though, but you know, they've made progress since day one, but to me, I don't know, all of those screens don't engage together all that well. They seem kind kind of clunky, and having a, you know, fold away display and having a lot of duplicate information where you got navigation down here and up here. A lot of people complain about the lagginess with the Lucid software as well. I think it looks a bit better on the Gravity. I still feel confident the Gravity should have started production before the Air, but I will give Lucid credit. Their software still looks a lot better than a lot of legacy automaker software does, that's for sure. What do you guys think of the importance of software in electric vehicles? Do you think it's more of a deal maker or breaker, or do you disagree with me and think, Drew, people don't care about the software all that much, they just want good cars? All that stuff, let me know what you're thinking down in the comments below, and thank you to everybody supporting this channel directly. Seriously, helps us out a ton, as does just watching these videos, so thanks again. Have an excellent rest of your day.